Bienvenidos, hola, hola, esto es No Sabemos pero Opinamos, yo soy Jessica.
Yo soy Marta.
¿Cómo andamos, Marta?
Bien,
Bien,
todo
qué
bien.
bueno. Bueno, aquí es No Sabemos pero Opinamos, donde hablamos de todo, de nada, pero siempre con muchas ganas. Y esta semana se celebra Thanksgiving, el Día de Acción de Gracias. Y le dije a Marta, Marta, dame un topic so that we can
Tema.
talk about or make an episode. Y dijo Marta, Thanksgiving, ¿qué?
Ajá.
So Marta va a dirigir esta conversación hoy. Y Marta es bien peleonera, entonces no vamos a hablar de Thanksgiving así, de lo que nos enseñaron en la escuela. ¿De qué vamos a hablar, Marta?
Vamos a hablar de Thanksgiving, de por qué celebramos a Thanksgiving en Estados Unidos y lo que nos contaron en la escuela y lo que parece lo que es la verdad, lo que afectó a la gente que vivía aquí, que eran los nativos americanos. Empezó cuando George Washington proclaimed the first national holiday of Thanksgiving in 1789. And then in 1801, when Thomas Jefferson became president, he refused to continue to proclaim Thanksgiving as a celebration. And the reason for that he didn't want to continue to celebrate it, was because it was starting to, the belief of religion was violating. There was no separation between the government and the pagan celebrations with what religion was about. So it was separated from. He didn't want to celebrate. He didn't believe in that. So and then in 1863, when President Abraham Lincoln became president, he then again officially proclaimed Thanksgiving during the Civil War. So I guess what I don't agree with is I know that the presidents can proclaim any holidays, but I think there should be more to it than just a celebration. I think it needs to be more related to how it affected Native Americans in the United States and what really happened. We celebrate in our home. We celebrate it nationally, that it's a Thanksgiving feast, a day of being thankful for many false myths and histories that we celebrate for. And a lot of the part that gets me kind of sad is that young people continue to believe what the history is being fed and why we're celebrating it, but never explain or told the story of how it affected the Native Americans. And it was a time where it became for the Native Americans where they took their land, they genocide and made them move from different places that they were settled in. They were introduced to many diseases. They lost a lot of villages from these Europeans that came to this country. So it's not really a celebration because Americans are not even acknowledging how it affected them. And in their own way, they don't celebrate it. It's a sad time for them, because they lost everything. They were not respected for who they were. And Americans make it sound like, oh, they provided food for us. We broke bread with them at a table, and they allowed us to come into their country. When it's not the truth. They invaded the country. They didn't respect the culture. They killed the natives. They raped their women. They made a move, So I don't think it's celebration. I think we need to be a little bit more sensitive to the Native Americans. We never are sensitive to the Native Americans, and I think it's time to do that.
Mm-hmm. To the real story, because they say, oh, this was the first Thanksgiving when our natives celebrated with these pilgrims or these English separatists que llegaron aquí, right? And that's a lie, because our native people for years, thousands of years, had already been celebrating what we now know as Thanksgiving, but it was like their harvest time. They were already celebrating. They already had costumbres. They already had things that they would do to celebrate this. Y llegaron esta gente in, what was it, 1620 on the Mayflower o con lo que sea que llegaron. We have to remember que cuando llegan esos primeros settlers, esos colonizers, vamos a decir, they brought with them diseases. So al momento que llegan, they automatically wiped out like 90% of our native people. They brought these diseases que ellos no tenían ni cómo cuidarse de eso. And they didn't come here to an empty place. Like there was people already on this land. But when they end up killing 90% of these indigenous populations, these pilgrims end up finding the villages, right? They end up finding empty villages. So they end up finding viviendas, established places already. And these pilgrims move in because the people that were there before had already died. So they're like, mira, ya encontré casa. ya, ya encontré terreno, ya encontré casa, ya encontré los animales, ya encontré.
Yeah,
and they made themselves at home.
Yeah, they claimed the land for as far as they could see. That was their land. One person. Imagínate. Te paras en el parque, en un parque grande. Pues nunca acabas de ver los árboles. But that was their land. They claimed it. That was their land. No sabiendo que ahí quizás todavía había Native Americans living in that land.
Yep.
They made a move. Made a move and segregated them wherever the heck they were not going to be bothered by them to continue to take over the land. So Thanksgiving is very mixed for me to celebrate it. When I was a little girl, we never celebrated Thanksgiving. It wasn't until I became a young teenager that somebody that had already assimilated to the American culture introduced it to us in our home and taught us how to cook a turkey and how to what we were celebrating. But in back of my mind as a child back then, all I could think of was food, right? But at the same time, I'm like, why are we celebrating this? You know, why? I mean, I don't understand. What are we thinking? You know, why is the nation thinking and saying this is a holiday to think? Think what? Who are we thanking? The colonizers for killing the people? Or are we thanking it in our private home just because we're sitting here with our family? Which is a choice we have, which is okay, I think. But what is the real reason to celebrate it? Why don't we celebrate harvest and really celebrate it, the natural land that there is, and the reason why we're celebrating? We're thanking the land for providing us with food, not us taking the land and their food.
Yeah.
That makes no sense.
Or even just to turn around and be like, oh, Thanksgiving is to thank los natives, porque por los Native Americans that were already here, those pilgrims didn't die in those winters that they had no idea how to live in. You know how cold our eastern United States winters are? You know how bad those snows are?
Yeah.
They weren't going to survive. But it was because of our native people that they learned how to survive the winter. They learned how to plant corn. They learned how to fish. They learned how to provide with food because of our native people that were here. Si no se hubieran muerto, a la chingada todos ellos. Pendejos y luego muertos de hambre todavía.
Yeah, and then now they're still celebrating it. So is it worth celebrating? I don't think so. I like to take it as just somebody else that has a day off from work. That's about it. But to celebrate it truthfully and honestly and heartfelt, I don't know anything about Thanksgiving except what they taught us in our history books. And then one day when, like, for example, one day I was in school, I was already at the university, and I met a native young lady. And she's the one that, told me how she felt about it. She wasn't really happy. And she says they look us. The same way they treat us as Mexicanos here. They've been treating us like that for many, 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 many years. And so and the funny, I don't know if it's funny, but it's just ironic that some of the foods that Native Americans eat, so do we. as Mexicanos,
Mm-hmm.
you know? And it's just different. I just don't understand where the turkey came in, and
The
why do
turkey.
we, yeah, like why?
We should be eating venado,
Right.
elote,
Yeah.
pato,
Yeah.
mm-hmm.
All the
Squash,
squash,
beans.
beans,
Mm-hmm.
corn, not all that. Now, Jessica touched a good point about if it wasn't for the Native Americans, these folks would have never survived.
Mm-hmm.
But then it took a kind of weird twist in my perspective that the Native Americans used everything of the land to survive. They didn't waste anything.
Nothing.
They didn't they used it to survive.
Mm-hmm.
When these people came, they started seeing that they could make money off the furs that kept them warm the first years they were here in this country. To the point that they ended up killing a lot of fawn that was naturally in the eastern northern part of the United States.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and that's how
Buffalo.
the
Mm-hmm.
buffaloes. They were, as a kid, I remember too. The buffalo. We didn't have many buffaloes anymore.
Mm-hmm.
They had to protect them and keep them in farms to have them reproduce. And now, thank God, we have them again. But that would have been gone. That would have been gone. Just like every natural thing that is part of this land
Mm-hmm.
has been destroyed by the folks that decided to disrespect this land and continue to do it.
And there's this narrative cuando se trata de Thanksgiving that you're taught here in school because how easy it is to, you know how they say there's always two sides to every story, but the only side of the story that we're ever told is the white man's view of what happened, right?
Or what they
or
thought
or the
happened.
pretty side of whatever porque ellos te la pintan que oh this was like a friendship in the making, the natives y los pilgrims, and they sat together at the same table and they broke bread together, but that's not the reality. The reality is that these English settlers came in and they didn't stop there. They kept creeping into the land. They kept taking away more and more. They kept breaking treaties. They kept forcing these people to convert to things that they didn't want to. There was cultural repression. They were stealing these people's identity. Like, that's how bad it was. And that's the reality of what happened. And none of that shit is taught to our children. It wasn't taught to me.
There's a town that I live in, and the majority of the people that used to live there were Native Americans. They were the Wyandotte Indians. And they have a, what's it called again? A totem?
Uh huh. A totem pole?
A totem pole. And they have a plaque that states that, I don't remember exactly what it said, but this is what I gathered, that they turned the land over to the colonizers. I don't have no other word for them. The colonizers, in a peaceful way, and that's why they put that totem pole up. I had a friend or a person that I ran into who was Native American, and he was so pissed off to read that. And how embarrassing is that? How embarrassing is that a Native American knows that that's not true, but yet all the little kids that live in that town or in that little city believe that this was oh yeah, the natives gave us this land.
Mm-hmm.
No, they didn't. They did not. They were taken away from this land, and they settled here. The colonizers settled here.
Mm-hmm.
And unfortunately, the land that they settled in, which is in Wyandotte, is nothing but an industrial area. When it used to be a part of their ground of the natives where they were able to fish, where there was a lot of fawns, different animals, deers, wild boar probably, a lot of different creatures that were used to survive are no longer available, or no longer, on the contrary, we're breathing toxic air and living a lie. And this is what they want us to do. Thank you, Thanksgiving? No.
Mm-hmm.
So that's where I stand. I don't agree with it. I know it's my opinion. And like Jessica says, maybe I'm a little peleonera, but
Well, you gotta fight for things you believe
I
in.
believe that I may not know the whole truth or the whole history line, but the little bit that I know, I just
Yeah.
want to give my opinion.
Like, just question what happened to our natives? when those first settlers came in. Like, it's not hard to see the truth.
It's contradictory.
The truth is there. It's para los que no quieren ver. Es lo que no quieren ver. Like, the reality is that Thanksgiving no era un tiempo de, ay, we're buddy buddies acá con los pilgrims y todos, bailando y cantando. That's not the reality.
Let's say that story that they tell is true. But as history keeps going, not far from the time they declare the Thanksgiving feast, if that was so true, why did they remove them from their land? Why did they put them in reservations? Why did they do that? If that was so true, then it should have been more harmonic living in these lands, and people would have not been removed from their land. So they obviously, if you're smart enough, you would think like that, and you would say, that's not true. But because the educators and the historians continue to make up their stories, and pound on their chest, and feel that they're so righteous people in this land, and they continue to do that today. Not just with the natives, but with other folks. With just the climate of the government right now. Same thing.
How long have we been fighting for freaking Columbus Day? Ya ves que hubo un tiempo que, Indigenous Day. Y entre este viejo ahora, no, it's not Indigenous Day, it's Columbus Day.
Yeah.
No, it's not Columbus Day. Debería de haber days for our native leaders. You know how many heroic native leaders we have in this country?
Yeah.
That they get nothing. Ni una página en un libro, ni una plaquita somewhere in a building. Like, they gotta fight for that shit.
Yeah, and that's what I don't like, the unfairness, the false history, the false celebrations. These idiots came to this land because they were lost, because they had nothing. They were fleeing their country because they couldn't follow the law over there. They were fleeing because they were hungry, because their government wasn't able to provide enough food for them. They were non-educators. They came like beasts. That's what they were, beasts in human form, and destroyed the land and the people of this land. So I don't agree with Thanksgiving. Now, if you want to celebrate in your home, to be thankful and mix your religion and be thankful to the Lord that you have your family together, that's a different story. But don't celebrate it because of what? Don't celebrate it because the history that they taught us is the reason why we're celebrating.
Because some native communities call it not Thanksgiving but a national day of mourning.
Yeah.
Because what happened? Colonization happened. Land theft happened. Genocide happened. Forced assimilation. Ya ves que I've told you the story about my friend who's a Navajo, that they forced their people to start changing their names into more American names. Crazy.
Yeah.
Crazy. Just to control them. Take away everything that they had.
And then these people came, and they called the natives savages. They were not savages. The Constitution of the United States, the first part of the Constitution of the United States, is a copycat of what the natives already had put in as their Constitution. But not once have they ever acknowledged that. They feel that they're the ones that created it, and it wasn't. They celebrated it just different. That was all. That was the difference. Embrace it. Embrace the different cultures. Learn from them, but don't take anything from them and force them to be who they're not, because we're individuals. They came from Europe with disbelief of certain ways of religion. They created all these different religions here in the United States, and they continue to pound their chest on that their religion is the righteousest, the greatest, the better one. But remember, all these people came. They were not educated.
That's a reality. All these people are people that didn't want to follow their own law.
They were criminals.
So like, I gotta leave. I'm gonna make my own shit. Then they come here and they don't like each other. So now they start making their own shit here. Like, they're never happy. They never want to follow whatever rule of law is in place.
It's called
so they
privilege.
go and then make their shit on separately.
Yeah,
that's
they feel
stupid.
So privileged to recreate. They came with the mindset that they were going to do whatever they wanted in this land.
Whatever they want.
And that's what they did.
They see it, they like it, they want it.
Yep. Yep.
No matter who it belongs to.
Yep. And they oppress the ones that were here.
And I don't want to go too off topic because we want to focus on the Thanksgiving thing, but that's what's happening right now. Yeah, it's right now the government is going after museums and different things of trying to erase a little bit about slavery and taking down pictures because it's DI. So anybody that's a little bit brown in history books or museums or anything, they're trying to take all that shit down to erase history.
Yeah. That's not history. That's lies. Bunch of lies. So Americans that are changing that, I don't know what to tell you except that I can laugh in your face and how ignorant you are.
Y cae en nosotros to always tell the generations that are to come the truth. The truth. Because as we move on forward and separate ourselves more and more and more, the truth se está cayendo, se está quedando atrás.
Mm-hmm.
So everybody's only going to know whatever they're being taught now. So we cannot forget about history. We cannot forget about those people that came before us and their stories. And tenemos que seguir enseñándole, especially our brown children, of all our native children, our Latino children, our black children, everybody, exactly what happened in history.
Yes, of course.
That's
So,
crazy.
Yeah.
How?
Yeah.
No manches. These people are on a roll of trying to control everything.
Yeah, they got issues, mental issues.
Mental issues.
Yeah. The little bit that I know, I just wanted to express it. Think about how you celebrate Thanksgiving. You know, don't celebrate because the nation wants you to celebrate it. Celebrate because you are with your family. That's your choice. But if you don't want to celebrate, like I did in many years, I did not celebrate Thanksgiving. I didn't lose anything. It didn't bother me. You know? I think now it's a burden because I got to cook.
Wait, the voting. So Native Americans were able to vote in 1924. They say even after 1924, many states used laws to stop Native Americans from voting.
It's still
They're
a
still
long
questioning
time.
it, but this has to do with what's happening now. Ya ves que they kept saying que, oh, illegals are voting or it's whoever's voting. But dice aquí que even them, so different states use different excuses to try to avoid allowing them to vote. Meaning not living under state jurisdiction, literacy tests,
Oh, yeah.
poll taxes, and obviously intimidation. And saying natives living on reservations didn't count as residents.
Yeah. Yep.
No mames.
Yeah. That's exactly
So
right.
every time there's a minority, they always see us as less than a full person.
Yeah. And so that's why I'm saying it's like people they were not American citizens. They were allowed to do what everyone else had to do. You know, they had the right to vote, to be part of
1965, voting rights finally protected Native Americans' right to vote nationwide.
Ahí está. There you go. See? And that's what I'm saying. It took all these years.
So in 1924, they saw Native Americans as U.S. citizens, and they weren't able to fully vote across the nation until 1965.
65?
When they were the first ones even here.
Yeah.
No.
When they've been here.
They were here before everybody.
Yeah.
This was their land.
They were the first people.
Oye, tú estabas aquí antes, pero yo no sé si te puedo dejar votar. Imagínate.
You know what that is? Fear.
Ay,
Fear.
Qué coraje.
Fear.
Qué coraje.
Fear. They wanted control. They wanted the privilege. They wanted to control, just like they do now. I'm sorry, but that's the way I look at it.
No, y ahorita está scary because I've seen some reports of these crazy Christian sects and stuff that's going around. Que they want the head of household to be the one that votes. Que there should be one vote per household, meaning they don't want women to vote. They don't want immigrants to vote. Man,
what's becoming of the United States? We're going backwards.
No, mama.
We're going backwards. And these are the folks that came and invented all these new religions here.
Yeah.
You know?
Because they weren't happy with the one that they wanted to put them in.
They were not happy with what they had over there. You know? So, really? I'm going to leave everybody with that because it's highly ridiculous if you really start thinking outside of that. You know? They just te envuelven en lies, and te envuelven en influence, and they want you to assimilate. Si no te tratan mal, te hacen como un remolino en la tierra. You find out, you come out of it like really dizzy. You don't even know what is really going on. But they do. They're trying to get control.
Mm-hmm.
They already have a plan.
Yeah.
They distract you. They pull you from one way. They confuse you. Just like Trump is. I don't mean to get on topic.
I know.
You know, but
I know. And that's terrible because they wanted to assimilate people that were already here, that this land belonged to them, and not them assimilate to their costumbres, but them, the original people, assimilate
First
to the new
people.
people. Like,
Yeah.
that's fucked up.
Yeah, big time.
That's fucked up. So yeah, I agree with Marta. Please, I mean, obviously, we should all be thankful for everything that we have, especially right now with all the hard times going on. Celebrate and give thanks, and for all the right reasons, for having a roof over your head, for having employment, for having food on your table, for whatever that you are thankful for. There's nothing wrong with celebrating that daily or that one day a week, right? On that last Thursday of November. But make sure that when your kids come home with their little drawings of the pilgrims and the little Indians on the pages and things like that, just take a moment to really let them know what the story actually was.
Do your little research. You may not be able to give them the full story.
Yeah, or graphic details
But-
or all of that. But
Yeah, but you'll be able to at least direct them in the right direction and let them question those historians that are teaching them in history classes.
mm-hmm.
Question them and let them have their own thoughts, their own opinions of what reality is.
We have to educate our children in the correct way with facts, with history of what actually.
Yeah, with
of what
leaving them
actually
with curiosity of learning more about it, not dictating,
yeah.
but giving them to question it and let them do their own research. There's these young white folks, young men who are being forced to believe what the white supremacists are dictating to them, but they're not questioning. They're just listening and following.
And following like a cult.
Yeah, following instead of questioning why are you saying this and how did you come to this conclusion and why do you feel this way, or whatever questions come to their mind, because that's the only way we learn. Is question after question. It's be afraid of those that don't want to let you ask any questions. Though that's when you got to step back and say, you know what? That's not for me.
Yeah. When it's only this way, only this way. No, that's not it.
No, you got to listen and question, because that's not the way to learn. Yeah. Just listening is not the way to go. You're just following like a little, I don't know. You're just like following.
A little bitch.
Yeah, like a little lost puppy.
En pocas palabras, a little bitch. A little bitch.
Oh my God.
Sí, para terminar pues. Pero I really like this topic because, as I mentioned before, I have some very close Native American friends from different groups. And to know that there are people, like I know what my people are going through, right? Los Latinos, los Mexicanos in particular, like how bad we have it. I can only imagine how my friends, como los antepasados de ellos, the struggle that they had to have gone through just to survive, like just to get to this point, like to think that they had the entire part of the country to themselves, and then all of a sudden los fueron gathering them up así como cattle en un corralito to ultimately have just a little bit of a reservation. Yeah. That's fucked up. Pero well, we know the reality, we know the story, part of the story, because I will never know the extent of all of that. Pero like we said, don't take away. You be grateful. Be grateful that you're here and healthy and all of that. What are you grateful for, Marta?
Man, I don't know. I'm so grateful for so many things that it would take another 40 minutes to talk about. But I'm thankful that I'm alive. I'm thankful that I'm here. And I'm thankful for what I do have. And I'm thankful for my family. I'm thankful for my friends like Jessica.
And I'm thankful for Marta.
Yeah.
I'm thankful for my family. I'm thankful that we are still standing, right? I'm
Yeah.
thankful that we're in a position that we have a voice.
Yeah, I'm glad that I have freedom to speak right now. We don't come back on, they got us.
Oh my God.
But because I think these last two topics have been a little deep, but
Yeah.
but that's freedom of speech as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah. Well, the next
Yeah.
one will be a little bit lighter.
Yeah.
We're gonna have to a ver qué está pasando en la farándula, un chisme o algo, a ver quién más se dejó. Something a little bit lighter. Pero yeah, the last two topics have been a little tough. But that's the reality of the situation. Sometimes things in life aren't happy and beautiful and uplifting.
Yeah. And we have to definitely do this podcast with a little more humor.
Sí, ¿verdad? Es que es
Yeah.
depressing cuando...
Yeah.
It's depressing. It's depressing.
It makes me emotional. It makes me angry and it makes me sad.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't like to feel that way.
No.
I like to be happy. But sometimes we got to talk about it just so that we can just let it out. And hopefully this will help somebody else understand or question it. And do your research. Call us sometime in our...
Yeah. And only knowing history. And not just our native indigenous people history. But you got to learn history de otros países también.
Yeah.
Because as we're seeing, history is repeating itself. And not the good parts of history. Not the good parts of history. And in order to know what happened then, I think that's the only way to be educated and being prepared as to what we can do now if we find ourselves in that situation like we are.
Yep. I agree.
Being vigilant.
Pero bueno,
Marta.
aquí nos despedimos esta noche.
Sí.
Y esperamos...
Que chinguen a su madre los del Mayflower, la niña y ¿cuál fue la otra? La Pinta y la Santa María. Chinguen a su madre. Y a Cristóbal Colón. 2 veces.
Bueno, vamos a echarle 3 veces. No, pero gracias for humoring with us here on our podcast. And like I said, we'll definitely try to make it lighter next time and fun.
Y lo que acaba ya viene Christmas, so it'll be better.
Yeah.
It'll be better.
Maybe we can talk about what we want for Christmas.
Yeah, ándale. Bueno, nos vemos, se cuidan y nos vemos a la próxima.
Bye bye.